Hello and welcome back to another episode of Feminine Alchemy. I am Julie Dean Richards, and today we have a very special conversation with someone I consider a dear friend, my friend Meghan Farner. She is here. Say hello, Megan.
Hello, thank you so much. We've wanted to do this for a long time. I'm excited that it's finally happening.
I know we every time we try to have a conversation, something always happens. The technology goes crazy, or it's Mercury retrograde, or something with our kid.
Mhm.
And I feel like it's been a long time coming to this conversation because both of us have had so much growth over the past couple years. And I feel like this is going to be really important for our listeners. So today we want to have a conversation around the topic of full transformation and something that we've been calling the hidden fourth or the principle of the hidden fourth. And Megan's, what she's been calling it is the sacred spiral. And so this is just one part of a framework that could really help people in their spiritual journey and their transformation as they're learning and growing and integrating so many different principles. So today we will be talking about all different kinds of principles from all different kinds of religions and spiritual backgrounds and blending them all together. So I'm really excited. Megan, for those who don't know you, will you just give like a couple sentences about who you are and we can get jump into it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I am a podcast host. I have my own podcast called Hidden Wisdom. I am an author. I wrote a book a couple years ago called Consider Yourself as Eve. I do come from an LDS or Mormon background, and my journey with religion and spirituality has been so fascinating to me. And so I learn a lot from those traditions and like learning to see them more esoterically. I define myself as an esoteric Mormon and consider myself one of few but growing numbers. I think that there are more people just in religion in general who are becoming more aware of the symbolic lived expression of a lot of the things that religion presents very literalistically. So I enjoy taking those symbols and kind of decoding them and showing people how those show up in their everyday life. And I'm very big on this journey of transformation. I feel very close to a lot of the underworld feminine archetypes. Like I think I live there a lot of the time. So that's fun in and of itself. And I've been learning a lot lately about what I would call a universal framework for complete spiritual evolution and growth. And that sounds like crazy arrogant for me to say out loud. And I've said that I'm like, wow, Megan, audacious. But honestly, it's just been receiving. Like I've had questions and I feel like God, spirit, goddess, they just pour into me these answers. And I've been receiving certain things that are coming together so beautifully. It's like I could not create this if I tried. Like this is just a process of reception. And the more that I get it, the more that I see, like, oh, this feels so ancient to me. Like this is wisdom that is so much older than I am. And so I haven't actually really shared a lot of it. Like if we have people listen to this show from my audience who know me pretty well, like you're going to be hearing brand new things because I have not been publicizing a lot of this yet. So I'm really excited for our conversation today.
Yes, and we're so lucky you get to hear it here first. This is the perks of being friends with Megan. She always brings you something new and unique and amazing. And she is just a wonderful human being and so thoughtful and such a good teacher. So I'm so excited for her to come and teach us today about these universal principles. And I think I want to start there in this conversation because before this conversation, we were talking about what you saw in nature and how you were seeing things in nature that were different than the things that we speak about often in religion or in spiritual settings. And maybe we should talk about that and kind of how this evolution started because you're adding back in something that many have taken out. Let's talk about threes and
Yeah.
trinities, and everybody talks about the three first. So give us some
Yes.
frameworks that depend on this three. What do we talk about when we're talking about like a trinity, a triad, things like that, and transformation?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I was seeing this a lot first and foremost in the way that we describe what I would call the eternal law of rhythm or cycles, right? And the way that I was always hearing that described is like, well, we have life and death and rebirth, right? So you have three there. Obviously, you have the idea of the Trinity. Usually there's a masculine Trinity in a lot of Western religion that we grow up in. We know that there's also feminine Trinities, right? In some of the more Celtic traditions and all of that. But I had also been exposed to older traditions where it was four, and there were two men and two women. There was a father and mother and a son and a daughter. And that was interesting to me. I found that compelling because what I see in a lot of the Trinity type of formations is that it collapses the feminine and there's still an imbalance. Like usually it's two men, one woman, maybe, right? If a feminine is even depicted there. And so I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. That's a possibility, right? Like I try to stay open to all of the different ways that this expresses itself. And so I found myself when I was studying a lot of commentary or frameworks that were not necessarily organic, but like someone had kind of put them together from different places. I was seeing this pattern of three. Another way that I saw it, particularly in the LDS tradition, was in our temple pattern of creation, fall, atonement, which maps to this life, death, rebirth kind of thing. And so I'm seeing it in all of these places and I'm like, okay, that's good. And like I see utility there and I feel truthfulness there, but also I'm also seeing fours. I'm starting to see fours in places. And the places that I was seeing a pattern of four different phases was all nature, right? So like I'm seeing fours in the seasons. I'm seeing four in the menstrual cycle. I'm seeing four phases in feminine maturity, right? Where we go from premenstrual, like puberty type phase to perimenopause, menopause, and like obviously early girlhood before that. And so I'm like, okay, there's four phases here. So I found myself really wrestling with this and I was just wanting understanding. And I actually took a bath. A bath place is a great place to like tune in, right? And get revelation and have this, be surrounded in water, which is so relevant to what I received that we're going to be talking about. So I was taking a bath and I was just kind of praying, working with God and Goddess. And I'm just like, teach me, like, is it three or is it four? And what I received and what I feel like just deeply resonated with me in that moment is it's actually four. And what has happened is that in some of these other patterns that are more interpretations of things, there is a piece that has been either removed purposely for many reasons that we can talk about because of the importance of this phase, or it's just kind of been hidden, like it's been forgotten in a way. And when you add that back in, suddenly all of these patterns made sense, and I could see where it fit in the kind of trinitarian patterns that I saw. Like I could see where it was missing and I could input it, and like the whole thing made sense again. So that was very exciting. It felt very profound to me at the time and still does.
Wow, I love that. I love this because I think it is, we talk about these frameworks like there's maiden mother crone or maiden mother matriarch. And then also when we talk about the heroine's journey, some people only talk about the descent, the search, and the resurfacing or the rising, but there's always a fourth, which is why we taught the heroine's journey. I always teach it the awakening first, awakening, descent, search, and then arising back up. And then, of course, when you're talking about, this idea of force, we also see with like maiden mother matriarch, it's really maiden mother, medicine woman matriarch, right? There's that hidden fourth, the principle that there's a hidden fourth. And of course, the Shekinah is who you're talking about a little bit when you talk about a daughter who comes in
Yes.
to this Trinity idea, two sons, two daughters, and that beautiful masculine feminine balance there. So, let's talk now about what you received as a framework. What does that look like? Before the conversation, I was kind of comparing it a little bit to the stages of faith. And, you can explain that for people who don't know what that means. But this is more of a transformative whole. Can you explain it more? Okay, now let's go through. Let's talk a little bit about these stages and what they are and why they matter.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I have been calling this portion of the framework. There's actually a bigger framework that this is just one piece of. But this portion of it, I've been calling the sacred spiral. And it's this idea that we are and that God is cyclical and that there's a rhythm, there is a tide to the affairs of men, as Shakespeare said. There are seasons to our life. And it's incredibly helpful to be able to identify what season you're in. First off, for orienting yourself in your life, in your journey, in the things that you're learning. And you might be in different places with different aspects of your life. Like there's still beautiful feminine flow and nuance here. There's not rigidity. That's not how I see this framework. But again, it's just a way to kind of identify where am I at? Where am I going? What can I be engaging in right now that is going to help my growth and that's going to bring the most peace and the most efficiency to this journey of the evolution of my soul, right? So maybe we can use the language that first spoke to me, moving from a pattern of life, death, and rebirth. All of those are real. What God showed me is that the missing fourth, as you said it, is this third phase, which is so interesting that you saw that with the medicine woman too, that it's maiden, mother, medicine woman, matriarch. This third phase is the phase that I think has been kind of removed or hidden. And what I was taught that that was is that it is the idea of a gestation phase. So in between death and rebirth, you have this liminal space. And we can talk about what that looks like and what that feels like. But maybe it will be helpful to define the other places first. Does that sound okay? Okay. So let's start with life. So this is the phase that we are taught, and you might even say conditioned to believe that we need to be in all the time. This is the most masculine phase. It's associated with summer, right? So, like, you have this heat, you have this energy of fire, everything's supposed to be happening. You're getting downloads all the time, you're learning all the time. You feel on fire spiritually, right? Like, your growth is effortless and rapid, is kind of how I would describe this life phase. This is also associated with kind of the first trimester of pregnancy, where it's like seed is planted and we are growing exponentially at this point in time. And it's happening maybe a little bit below the surface. This is also related to the ovulation phase in our menstrual cycle, where it's like, this is where we feel our best. We have the most energy. We're feeling the sexiest. We're feeling really good at this point in time. And so the life phase is, it's great. And we all love to be there. Like, it feels so good. And also, it's not meant to last. It's not meant to have us there all the time. That's actually stagnation, right? That would actually mean that we're not growing, we're not progressing spiritually if we're not willing to engage with the full cycle. For me, I have vocally been a proponent of this is the best phase for a long time. And a lot of that, again, was my conditioning and a lot of beliefs that I had inherited that, that masculine energy is superior in a lot of ways. And to be productive is the best thing that I could possibly be. And this is like productivity season. This is when we can get done all the things, right? And so it feels really good. And learning the rest of the phases, it does take some healing and some reconditioning to be able to see the utility and the purpose and the beauty of each of these other phases as well. So I don't know. Do you have anything that you would like to add about any of that?
Yeah, I think this phase is the one that everyone thinks is, like, good. We always picture, like, white light, bright sunlight, and, like,
Yes.
this is, like, for my people who are always like, "Light, everything in light. Light is everything.
Yeah.
Sending love and light, all the light all the
Yes.
time." Like, and
Yes. It's all about the light. The light is the only thing that matters. Yeah, that's very much the vibe. Mhm.
And these are the people who are, as long as it's light, these are also the people who are constantly like, service is the only way. You have to serve constantly, you
Yes.
have to give constantly, give, give, give.
It's
And
the
it's the
doing.
doing. It's the doing. We talk about this
Mhm.
all the time, you know? And this is what we have been, like you said, conditioned to believe. And I think that, it's not to say this is a bad phase. It's not
Mm-mm.
bad. That's the whole thing. It's like, I have to give this caveat about, like, if you question the quote light phase, like the sun phase, then man, you are on the dark side. Like, there's something wrong with you. So just think about that as you're hearing about this and feeling this in your body. Think about if it really was summer all year long. What would that really be like?
Mhm.
Like, real summer, no breaks from that. And what would happen to our plants and our crops and all of those kinds of things. So, yeah, that's what I'd say
Mm.
about this. This is always we're pushing, pushing, light, light, light.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. And I want to make it clear too, and you're basically saying this, but just to emphasize it, we're not talking about light and dark as good and evil. That's a paradigm that so many of us have received, right? And reality, what we're discussing is light. Maybe a better way to say that is things are visible. There's an awareness, there's an awakening, like you're awake in this phase, as opposed to the dark is the unknown, right? There's a mystery there. There's the inability to maybe see and perceive with our five senses the way that we're used to. But yeah, we're not saying good is bad, but we're saying that there are two sides to the creative power, to creation, and both are necessary, right? Yeah. Another thought that I had, that just to kind of add some clarity to this phase, you could call this like the Garden of Eden phase, right? So this is Adam and Eve in the garden doing their thing. Like Adam's naming stuff. They have all the trees they can eat from. There's this abundance kind of feel to it, right? And sure, you can try to stay there forever. There's lots of people that do try to stay in this phase forever who are really, really scared of engaging with the rest of the process. To some degree, I think it's inevitable. Whether you like it or not, you are going to go through these other cycles. I prefer to choose into that because that is going to do so much more for the evolution of our soul and our growth and our learning. But it is possible to stay in this phase. And what that looks like is you don't ask a lot of questions. You feel very comfortable with what you know. You think that what you know is all there is to know. You kind of have this idea that, like, I have all the truth and there's no more truth. And as long as I'm checking boxes, then I'm in the best place I could be, right? You brought up the stages of faith, which I think is a useful kind of roadmap to understand how faith evolves, whether you're thinking of that, like it's written usually in the context of religious faith. But I would broaden that and say that this is applicable to a spiritual journey overall, particularly if you come from a religious background. I see it very helpful in that way. And the life phase would be maybe akin to like a stage 3, which is like, I am participating in my church. I know the doctrine. I know the dogma. I follow the rules. I get promoted. I'm put in positions of authority because I know the things and I know how to execute them by the book, right? Like your relationship with God is kind of managed and dictated by the authority structures that you are participating in. And again, that's not wrong. Like it is a developmental phase, it is a place where we are, right? It's like childhood. Childhood is not wrong. That is a phase that we all have to go through. But also, if you want to experience growth, eventually you need to grow up. Eventually you need to move past that phase. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was gonna say the other thing is that oftentimes people who are in this phase really like to push away or push down people who are not in that phase. Like because of the fear, because it's so fear centric, there's a lot of like, we've talked about this before, like, "Oh my gosh, don't go over there, don't ask that question. Oh, don't go into these other pieces." Again, this isn't bad, and the thing is, it's all cyclical, right? It's all cyclical, so guess what? You're gonna come back to this phase again because that's the way that it goes, you're gonna get to be in this phase. It's not meant to be forever, it's meant to be a cycle, it's meant to be a spiral, just like Megan, described, but I think there's just a lot of cognitive dissonance that comes up, for people in this phase, and it's really hard for them. The other thing I wanted to clarify is this is not always religious people. There can be dogma for people who are not religious but spiritual. There can be dogma for people who are atheistic. That this can happen to you regardless. And this framework works even in fields like the medical field or, science or whatever it is. I'm just saying it's not just pointedly at religious people. This phase happens to many, many people who you're here if you feel like you're doing all the things, you're doing it right, and other people are doing it wrong, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, so true. Thank you for pointing that out. And that's why, to me, that has spoken to just the universal truth of what I've received is like it is applicable literally everywhere. So once you see the pattern, you can receive insight on how it's playing out in all of these different facets and on all these different levels. You're going to see it interpersonally, like your own parts you can see and identify where certain parts are in this. You'll see it in your relationships, your communities, institutions, governments globally. It's literally that whole idea that truth works on the macrocosm all the way down to the microcosm. And so that's how I see this pattern. And yes, I would identify exactly what you were saying, that this is the phase where there's a degree of comfort because you are operating according to what you think you know. And so there isn't as much dissonance. When there is dissonance, it's between you and other people, as you were saying. Like there's a conflict that might come up, a judgment maybe that we become susceptible to in this time because we think we have it right and everyone who's not in the same exact place we are has it wrong, right? Yeah, I think that's a really good way of identifying that.
Yeah, and we've all been in this phase. I've been in this phase, and you can be in this phase. Like I said, this is not just like religious versus non-religious or whatever. I know many spiritual people who think they have it all right, and I have done this in my career. So, anyway, just
Yes.
for people not to feel
We all
we
do.
all do it.
Right. It is the phase of living comfortably in our ego, right? Maybe we haven't been exposed to something or we're not engaging intentionally in a process of trying to see and overcome our weaknesses, right? And so again, like it's comfortable. It feels nice. It feels safe in this place because there's a congruency between my behavior and my inner world, my current beliefs. So maybe we can talk a little bit about how to engage this phase to support the rest of the cycle, right? So we talked a little bit about why we get stuck here. Some of the things that I think are really helpful in this phase, first off, is to keep a sense of open mindedness. So, like, even though we have a sense of certainty, we're feeling quite a bit of peace with where we are and what we know, and things are flowing pretty effortlessly to us. Like, recognizing that I probably don't have all of it figured out. Even though I feel really good right now, there's probably more that I don't know. And just kind of having this sense of humility almost to be like, okay, I feel good with where I am. Like, things are flowing for me right now. This is a good season that I'm in. But also, like, I want to keep growing. And so I need to be open to the possibility that maybe I don't have it all figured out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's perfect, and you can use this phase to your advantage, kinda like we talked to people about, like, using your ovulation to your advantage. Yes, use the time to do the things, this is perfect. Use the time to exert and to help and uplift people who are struggling and to grow more and to, have some output because the other parts are harder to have output. So, let's talk about this next phase that we're going through, which is death, right? The next phase?
Yes, death. The number one human fear, right, that we have is we all have this ingrained, conditioned fear of death, right? Not only literal death, but also that does translate into a fear of this phase. This is a hard phase for us to intentionally engage with. And a lot of the times, I think people, especially people who don't know the sacred spiral, who haven't really experienced it a lot of the times you don't opt into death. You might be forced. You might be forced into this phase. But this is the time where, exactly as it sounds like, something dies in you. And again, we're not necessarily talking literally, but rather we're talking about the death of your certainty, where the thing that you were relying on in the life phase that you were feeling so good about, suddenly you learn something that throws that into question. And you're like, maybe I was wrong about that. Maybe I don't know about that. This can look like the death of certain aspects of your identity, right? Particularly your egoic identity, like the person that I think I am, that I'm operating as in my day to day life. Something happened, and now I don't know if that's truly who I am anymore. Like I have experienced something where now I don't know who I am, right? Like it's a loss of sense of self. This could be shifts in your paradigm or institutions, people that you have relied on, a lot of things being brought to light as a like a broad kind of dramatic example of sort of a collective death. I would say that the recent release of like the Epstein files, that was a collective death for a lot of people, right? Where there was this idea of who the kind of elite personalities are and the kinds of things that they do, and almost this benevolence that we feel towards them. We look up to them. We see them as authorities. We see them often as good people. And then there was this revelation that came out that, like, these are horrible people that are doing horrible things that is so evil, right? That put society in a death phase of like, holy crap, everything that I thought I knew, it's dead now. And so this phase can be very jarring, especially if you're not looking for it. There are other people who do go looking for things and kind of opt in to a death phase. And sometimes that can make it a little bit more gentle. Not always. You can still certainly learn things that are just very paradigm breaking and painful. And so it's not always like, well, I asked the question and then I got the answer, so I was ready for it. It's not always that way. But I have found that it can be that way. And again, that's one of the benefits of knowing the sacred spiral is that you can expect it, right? Where it's like, well, I'm in a life phase right now. I'm probably going to go through a death phase at some point, whether because of an external circumstance that happens to me or because I'm choosing in. I'm trying to learn, right? A lot of the times when we're trying to learn, we might learn something that we didn't expect, and that can put us in a death phase. When you know that, it can be so much more gentle for you to know, like, okay, yes, this was expected. I think this is one of the benefits of archetypes too, and having these beautiful patterns of honestly, this very feminine pattern of descent and condescension. This is the going down, right? So this is Eve partaking of the fruit. This is Inanna descending through the seven gates, losing pieces of herself, right? Like she's going through several deaths of like her identity and her belongings and all these different things that she is giving up to continue this pursuit downward. This is the phase that is meant to turn you into yourself and into your inner world. This is where you start to move from that life phase, which is very external, right? Like it's about your external world and the things you're doing and the service you're giving to others, right? This is a transition that is turning you more internal. And the point behind it is to help you become more introspective of like what lives in me that is dying and how do I work with this, right? Do you have anything? What do you think?
Yes, I was gonna say what this feels like is, and you've described it well, but oftentimes this feels like, oh my gosh, the rug just got pulled out from underneath me. Holy crap. No. Often this initiation happens for people when something that is quote unquote not supposed to happen happens to you. And then you have to question everything. This is the, oh, why God me? Why me? What happened? This is also just a persistent question sometimes that throws everything out of balance, like Megan described. But it does feel like this is the part of the journey that does feel heartrending and heart-wrenching and difficult and sad, and sadly, sometimes people get stuck here too for a long time, and they have a hard time getting into the gestation phase, and, you know, I mean, it's hard to get stuck here because I feel like we're always moving, but the
Mhm.
constant depression, I feel like if you get so far into freeze that you can't allow yourself to fully answer the question, sometimes that can be getting stuck in this phase, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that and maybe even beyond getting stuck in it, I would describe it as this is the phase where you are most likely to throw the baby out with the bathwater just to get back to a life phase. Like because it is painful to experience this phase, something's dying. Like it's hard, right? We don't want to feel that. We don't want to feel the grief and the pain and the anger and the bitterness and all the things that come up when something like that happens. What we are often likely to do is just kind of throw everything out. We think, well, this thing died, so none of this is worthy of me. None of this is good for me. I'm going to throw it all out and I'm just going to adopt a new paradigm that gets me back in the life phase where I feel like I'm oriented, I can do life, and we have a really hard time sitting and engaging with this of our life, and it's kind of where we need a little bit of that archetypal feminine death doula. Like, we need someone to hold our hand. We need someone to grieve with us and see us and also counsel with us to be like, "Look, I know that this hurts, and yeah, you're probably gonna have to throw a lot of this out, but don't throw everything out. Like, there are more things ahead for you." So I think that this is where I see a lot of pendulum swings. For example, this might be the phase where you become disillusioned with some religious stuff that you grew up in, either, "Oh, my church is not perfect," or "The scriptures are flawed," or, whatever it is. And from there, you say, "To heck with all of that. I'm throwing all of it out. I don't believe in God anymore. I don't believe in anything because this thing that I lived with so much certainty in, I found out something about it was wrong." And so the challenge here is to choose to engage in the next phase, which we'll talk about here in a moment, and to be very aware to engage with this phase in a very human way of allowing something to die and not burning the whole world down with it. An example that comes to mind is I see my dad who has become disillusioned about a lot of things, but he's not really willing to sit in the pain and discomfort of that. And so what he ends up doing is he just reverts back to the activities that worked for him in the life phase. And that doesn't really work. It might feel like a band aid for a little bit, but eventually you're going to have to go through the rest of the cycle if you actually want to experience healing and progression.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I feel like that's oftentimes the most common is either adopting, like, an atheistic worldview or switching your political party 100% or, like, disengaging. completely with the political system, or this can happen in medicine as well, like just throwing everything out and like I don't want to deal with it and I'm just going to go back to the way things were even though I know something is bad or wrong or whatever, and engage because I just have to. I just have to because I don't want to sit with it. So I think that's really well spoken. And then I would say some of the ways that we can use this productively, like you said, if you know that there's a cycle, that you can feel like, okay, I do not have to despair. Like yes, despair. Feel your grief. But like
Mm,
that's what I mean. Like I know that a next stage is coming, another stage is coming. And so in this stage, I will choose to fully grieve. I will choose to release my emotion. I will choose to continue to ask questions and to dig. And I feel like oftentimes, yeah, I have to do that. Like I have to remind myself because in many parts of my life I feel like I'm in this gestation stage and I've been here before, many times in many different facets of my life. And
yep.
I do think that is helpful, but I know if anyone who's listening to this is in this phase, I know how deep it runs, how difficult it is, how heartrending is. It is incredibly heart-wrenching. And this can be the start of a divorce, this can be a loss of a child, this can be the birth of a child. This can be so many things. And so just know, I think the best thing that you can do is, like Megan said, find someone to be with you in your grief. Find somebody who has gone through it and not someone who's just swung back or somebody who has swung to the other side and just completely tossed everything. Find someone who you trust who can sit with you. And that person can be an archetype if there's no one around you. Should we suggest some
Ooh.
for this?
Yeah, for this phase. Yeah, I mean, this is where you're transitioning into the underworld, right? And so this is kind of where you have maybe Hecate would be a good example here of like the woman at the threshold, right? That's inviting you into the cave and she looks scary, right? Like she's got snakes, she's got dragons, she's a little fierce, she's no nonsense. She's here to facilitate that. This would also be associated with like Kali,
Colleague.
right?
Yeah.
And this goddess of death and destruction and burn it down, right? And like but what is the intention for behind both of them? Like neither one of them is inviting you into a death because they want you to be in pain.
Mhm.
Neither one of them is inviting you into a death because they just want to see you struggle, right? The purpose of this phase is to bring forth new life in you. And if you don't engage in this phase, you can never get there, right? Like you have to burn the fields so that the soil can be prepared for the new thing that you want to grow. And so it's beautiful, like, there is a beauty in it. I would associate this with the season of fall,
Yes.
which is my absolute favorite, and it's like everything is literally dying
Mm,
in
mhm,
fall. It's also beautiful. There's a beauty that can be engaged in at that time, there's a crispness in the air, like, there's a special feeling to this particular season. There is an aspect of new life that's, like, also being planted, right?
yeah,
Like, you have kind of the initiation of some things, the next phases that we're gonna talk to that you're preparing the ground for
mhm,
right here, and so holding space for the dichotomy of this is painful, there's also beauty in this because it is an initiation. This is ultimately an invitation forward. Another thing that I thought of while we were talking is that this is really the time to start doing your shadow work. So this is when you can start looking at like what lives in me that needs to be released, what lives in me that needs to be reclaimed. And you start that process. I don't think you're going to complete it in this phase, but that would be a really proactive way to approach this. So, a couple of examples that maybe help illustrate this. So last year, I got into business with a couple of guys. We were going to build this like marriage thing. Julie knows about it. She read the star chart. She knew that it wasn't going to go well long before I did. But anyway, so like we started working with people and we had some really cool experiences and like it was going well. And I was traveling a lot. I was living in Idaho at the time and they were down in Utah. I was going to Utah a lot. And so we decided like, oh, we should move so that we could be closer so we can do this work. And so we moved, and the week after we moved, they came to me and said, "You're out. You're out of the business." That was a death. That was an event. Here's another thing is that deaths, you can almost put a date on it. You can't necessarily say that for the life and the gestation periods that we're going to talk about, but with deaths, you can almost say, like, that is when it changed. Like, that thing happened, and it put me out, and so that was a major death for me, right? But how we engage with that really matters. This is the time to feel your feelings. This is the time to be human. This is the time to grieve. Often you will find yourself going through those 5 stages of grief, even if, it's not the death of a person. If it's the death of anything, like, you're probably gonna feel the grief, the anger, the denial, the bitterness, like, you're gonna go through that, and again, the idea is to engage with those things and not get stuck in them. But this is also a time where you can be laying the groundwork and preparing for the next season. A couple weeks ago, I did a podcast with a medium, and I felt impressed to invite her to do a reading on the show, which I'd never done before. And that was super risky. And it turned out that, like, we did this reading, and the way that it went was my spirit team exposing my absolute biggest weakness for everyone to hear on this podcast. And me just being like, okay, so
Now
we're doing
everyone
this.
go
All
listen
right.
to this podcast. Now everyone
I
has
know.
to go find out what Megan's big.
It's not out yet. It will be out. I am going to share it. People ask me, they're like, "Are you going to share it?" I'm like, "Yes, I am going to share it because I want people to know that I'm human." And also, I think my weakness is very relatable. It has a lot to do with motherhood
Yeah. Yeah.
and a lot of pain and generational baggage and all sorts of stuff around motherhood. Okay. So I am going to share it. It isn't out yet, but it will be. And that realization constituted a death of sorts. It was an awakening that was also a death. And it took me into that low place, and I, like, cried myself to sleep, and it was really emotional. But the next day I got up and I made an appointment with my friend and I said, "Okay, we're gonna do a session." And I'm not saying that we immediately need to go there all the time. In this case, it was something that was tender. It wasn't an open gouging wound for me. So I could engage with it that fast. Sometimes you need a little more time to go through those stages of grief before you can get there. But I do think that when we engage this time meaningfully, transitioning into more of a healing mindset is so important because, yeah, the way that we get stuck, the way that we go into that, like, pendulum swing, throw the baby out with the bathwater, that's a reaction to the wound instead of when we choose to heal it. That is crucial for us moving into the next phase.
Just to comment on your experience, so it's so much harder when you don't know it exists sometimes. Like when it's not there, it comes out of the blue, but you're like, oh, it's so true. It's easier when, like for me, I know my responsibility thing. If people have listened for a long time, they know this about me that like I have this wound about not
Your
being responsible.
Capricornness.
Yeah, my Capricornness, right?
Mm.
Because I'm a lawyer, so I have to do all the responsible things. So, is a wound for me. And every time that gets exposed in a new layer, yeah, that's painful, but I can handle that. But having something out of left field, like the first time I discovered it, it was like, oh man, holy cow. So it's very brave of you, Megan, to take that on. I just want to say it's very, very brave of you. And I'm grateful for you being real and exposing it and just showing your journey in real time. So just you're doing great. Just
Well,
so you know that.
thank you. What I really want to say is that I really want to walk the walk. And that has to do with this next phase that we're going to talk about. I really want to walk the walk. I don't just want to talk it. I want to live it. And that is hard. That is hard. And a big part of that is because it has to do with our third phase. Should we talk about that?
Yes, I'm so excited about this phase. I love this phase.
Yes. Yes. I know. We love it. Well, we don't love it usually because we don't know that it exists and it feels very scary to us. But what I have received has helped me to love this phase and to see it so differently now that I can identify it. So, this is the third phase, as we talked about. This is the hidden phase, right? This is the one that has been kind of removed or hidden from the collective unconscious for a long time. But I feel like I'm starting to see it come back, and I think other people are going to see it more and more too. And this is the phase of gestation. This is the point in time between something is dead and something has not yet been reborn. Associations. I would say that this is Eve in the garden after she has eaten the fruit, and Adam hasn't joined her yet. I would say that this is Inanna after she's descended all the 7 gates and she's killed and she is hung on a fish hook and she hangs there dead for 3 days. This is Jesus in the tomb, right? After the crucifixion, pre-resurrection. This is the 3 days where he's lying in darkness and everything feels lost, right? A lot of the language that does exist around this phase, what little there is, I would say that this is kind of the dark night of the soul, or people would kind of describe it as a wilderness phase, that like I'm lost in the wilderness and I don't know where I am and I feel very disoriented, right? And so those are a lot of the emotions that I see currently come up in this phase. Again, is kind of this despair, this feeling lost. There's a loneliness, there's a desire and an appetite to get back to life without an idea of how to get there. Like you've already chosen into the death to the degree that you can't just like try to hop back into life. Like I mentioned my dad, right? Like he has had things die, but he just kind of tries to live in the life phase even though that's not really where he is. It's not congruent with him. You can't really do that. Like you've seen too much. You can't go backwards at this point. This is a time where I see especially women that are like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing right now. Where they're like, I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to feel connected to God, and I'm not feeling it. I don't know what to do. I just feel there's like so many things that I want to do, and I try to do things, but nothing is landing for me. Like nothing feels aligned for me. And so there's a frustration, I think, that can crop up in this phase. Again, along with this just sense of despair and almost feeling deserted, right? Like there's almost an abandonment that comes up in this phase. So all of that's real. And I think that we can all identify times in our life when we've felt that way, particularly again, post a death of something, certainty, identity, whatever. What's been so helpful to me and the language that God and Goddess gave to me is to reframe this time as a gestation. So this is that liminal womb tomb space, right? Where the tomb is a cave, it's a temple, it's a womb. That was the idea of core. It had to do with a cave, and a cave was seen as a womb, as this womb space. So think about the womb. What is happening in the womb? It's dark. You don't see. This is a place where our senses feel very offline. That's part of the disorientation, right? That's like, I'm not seeing. What I am hearing is really muffled and I can't quite make it out. And there's loud sounds and I don't really know. It's a little bit scary. So it's dark. It's also safe. So this is kind of the aspect of darkness that we're referring to in contrast to the light. It's not that it's evil. It's that it's unknown. It's the dark side of the moon, right? Like what's over there? Who knows? The womb is kind of that sort of space. But it is a space of creation. And that I think is one of the most important things we need to understand about this phase. It feels like everything's dead and it's staying dead. And you're wondering, is there ever going to be new life? And in reality, you are being woven in that very moment. The womb is the place where spirit and body literally are woven together. These two divine aspects, the flesh, so divine, our spirit, absolutely divine, of different qualities, of different purposes, right? Of different constitutions. And yet, our mother is taking these two aspects and weaving them piece by piece together in this soft, quiet, dark, warm, safe space. This is where embodiment happens. And I think that this is why this phase got taken out. Two reasons. One, because it is the most innately feminine phase, where all that there is for you to do is to surrender to the process. All that there is for you to do is to trust that even though you don't know what you are becoming something and it's better than what you were before. This is the place where it is completely just the reception of grace. This is the divine coming into your story. I was talking to my husband today about our paradigms and how it's so hard to see them because we live in them, right? And it's this idea of like, does a fish know what water is? It doesn't. It has no idea because it lives in it. It swims in it all the time. And unless it found itself in air or on land, it has nothing to contrast. It has nothing to help it see like that isn't the only normal thing, right? This is what I think the gestation phase actually is that we feel disconnected from God. We feel lost. We feel hopeless. We feel like we're in the wilderness. And in reality, it's because we are being surrounded by God. We are completely held. We are completely carried in the waters of the womb. And we are being sustained every minute by our mother, by this divine connection between her spirit and our body and spirit that she is weaving together. It's such a massive paradigm shift that I think it brings so much hope and peace to realize, like, in those moments that you feel most alone, like, truly that is when you are being shaped by God. Like, that is when you are being held by the goddess in her womb space, and she is recreating you. Like, she is making you into something different. And I do. I think about the scripture. It's from 1 John 3:5 that says, "We do not yet know what we will become, but eventually we trust that we will be born and we will see our mother. And when we see her, we will know that's what I am. I'm like her. I'm her child."
That's so beautiful, Megan. I just wanna, like, sit in it for a second because I think that paradigm shift is so uplifting and so full of grace. It's such a different way to phrase it. I think so many of us feel like we're in this gestation phase. I mean, we've talked about it, but literally I've been like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I feel so burnt out.
That's the catchphrase of this phase. I don't
I
know.
don't know. Exactly. That is the catchphrase. I don't know. Which is so beautiful if you think about it as the polarity of like life is knowing and the opposite being gestation of I don't know. I'm in the space of not knowing. And I think we get so scared. We're so scared of not knowing. Even though I would argue that we're more in danger when we think we know than when we don't know. And people will be surprised by that, but it's true. When we think we know something, when we assume what do we say about people who assume when we assume things? Then we end up missing everything. We miss the true answer to our question. We miss, so much of life, and we miss the opportunity, like you said, to be woven, completely woven. And for me, when we were talking about this a little bit before the podcast, and you said that, it hit me really hard. Oh my gosh, maybe it's okay. Maybe I am okay. I think so many people in this phase feel either like, oh my goodness, I'm cast off from God, or like I'm unlovable, or this will never be better, or, all the things. And it's so beautiful to reframe this as like, no, I'm gestating right now and I am safe. Like I literally am held in this moment, even though it's all surrounding me. I can't feel that holding. And I would say in this phase also, sometimes it can feel a little bit like a search, like you're constantly searching. I'm searching, I'm searching. I don't know, I don't know. I'm searching within myself, I'm searching without myself. And I guess in this paradigm, as we're talking about it, just know that that search is divine, like it's divinely led. It will all be okay. And it'll be okay no matter what. But as long as we're not trying to jump back all of a sudden, trying to jump back to life, trying to jump back and go backwards at this point, where you cannot go back. You can only go forward. You cannot undo what has been done. And that's okay. And we talked about this being at one mint, right? Atonement at one mint. And that this is true at one mint. And I love that we talk about it in the arms of the mother because so much of our language for this is very masculine. It's always this masculine piece of at one mint, but this is truly like you are in the arms of the mother. And I just want to add one more piece, which is, around Mother's Day, there's always like a million things about mothers, blah, 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 blah. This little thing, choo, 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 choo. And but one of them that caught my eye was this study that had been done about what is the last word, like is there a word that people say before they pass away? And is there a word that lets you know someone's going to pass away? And I'm sure lots of people saw this, but the word is mother. This doctor was seeing that if someone, this ICU doc, if someone said the word mother or mom, reach out to their mom, mama, that their body was ready to go. They were ready to go. They were
Hmm.
falling into the arms of the Great Mother. And in this way, let yourself fall into the arms or the womb, even more beautiful. Let yourself fall into the womb of the Great Mother because she can carry you and she will bring you to rebirth. And I think a beautiful archetype for this would be Nut. Nut is the perfect archetype. She is an Egyptian goddess who you fall she literally is life and death, like, you are consumed and you are rebirthed through her, and she is all water. She is sky and ocean, and I think that's, like, the perfect example of this.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a beautiful synchronicity. I was talking to one of our friends. I was talking to Donna
Yeah.
just earlier today, and she was talking about how she did this study of she was studying soldiers and like men that go into the military, and that she noticed this pattern that a lot of those men, like right before they die, they cry out for their mother. And I think that's their physical mother. And it's also the mother of our soul, right? It's the mother of our spirits, the mother of all creation that we are returning to, right? And that she is also facilitating our rebirth. After every death is a birth,
Mhm,
and after every birth is a death. Like, this is the law of cycles. This is an eternal law. It is the pattern of the soul. And so seeing it in this way, recognizing it for what I think it really is, right? Like, this isn't desertion. This is you're a fish in the water.
mhm,
Like, you just can't it's so close to you that you can't see it. It changes everything. The good thing about a gestation, life, we try to stay in the life phase, and lives can be pretty long, right? Like, you can stay alive for 90 years,
yeah,
you know? My grandmother is 92
well,
and she's kicking. She's doing great, right? So, like, life, you can spend a lot of time there. The one thing that is hopeful about the gestation phase when it does feel heavy and when it is hard to feel that connection at times is that there is always a time limit on a gestation. Depending on the situation, it differs, right? So for humans, gestation is 9 months. For mice, it's like 2 weeks or
yeah,
something. For elephants, it's 2 years, right? And so depending on the thing that has died and what is being reborn in you, it can it can take different amounts of time that you're in this liminal space. However, it always comes to an end, right? Like 40 weeks plus or minus 2,
mhm,
you know that you're going to have a baby.
mhm,
Like, it is a certainty, and that is the thing that gets you through, is knowing, like, "Okay, I am not going to be here forever." Like, I know this is going to end, and I think that that hope is really helpful to us to the degree that we allow it to help us to have intention and gratitude in this phase. So, one of the other kind of connections of this phase is the season of winter, right? And like, nobody likes winter. Like, seriously, it's so rare to find somebody that likes winter, right? Like, it's long and cold and snowy and I'm uncomfortable and everything is dead. Like, it doesn't feel as pretty or whatever. It doesn't feel as alive. And yet at the same time, the trees, like, they're putting down their roots, they're getting stronger. Like, they are getting more connected, more embodied in Mother Earth. It's preparatory, right? Everything that's happening, the seeds are down there, they're waiting. This is the waiting period. This is the waiting room. We all hate waiting because we're all impatient, right? We all want to be, I want to be reborn right now. But the beauty of this phase is that it is meant to be a phase of rest. This is meant to be the point where you are so surrendered that you can be rejuvenated. This is the dead of night. Like, you're supposed to be asleep. You need that. Your soul needs that. And it needs it because you're going to wake up soon. And if you don't have that phase, you're not going to be ready to engage with the next phase. Like, all of these things build on each other, right? And so overcoming our programming that says, I need to be in the life phase, I need to be in my masculine all the time, and instead experiencing healing so that I can, first off, recognize the gestation phases and then have a sense of gratitude for them and joy for them. I'm not perfect at this. Like, I feel like I've been in a gestation phase since that death, which was like literally a year ago, exactly. Since that death that I went through with that business, I feel like I've been in a gestation. I think I was in a gestation phase solidly for 9 months. And it's still like, I feel like I'm like end of pregnancy, but it's still like not totally reborn yet, you
yeah,
know?
you're 10
And so
mom's 10 centimeters, you're crowning maybe.
I know. We're getting there, right? We're getting there, but like the thing has not been completely reborn yet, right? And I'll be honest, for a lot of that time, I have been in that kind of dissolution, frustration, like trying to get back into the life phase, and I just can't no matter what I do, right? But again, having this learning come through over the last couple of months, that was a lot of the key of my question too, is it wasn't just like, oh, I see these patterns. It was like, God, where the heck am I? Because I feel like I've dead. I feel like I've been dying. I feel like it's like, can we call it yet? Like, like that's how I felt. And I also like I see new growth happening. Like I see the buds that are coming up, and I see like the snow's melting a little bit. Like I can see this, and so I'm like I don't feel like I'm in a death phase. I also don't feel like I'm reborn yet. So where am I? And that's when God and Goddess were like, this is where you are. You're in a gestation. You're not dead and you're not alive. You don't know anything. Like you're in the dark, you're held. Rest. And like that was the message. It was like lay that stuff aside. Enjoy this time. Find some peace. Find some presence. Like this is the time to become so present with what is happening and not trying to force anything. Just like being aware and being receptive. This is also, and this is a major part, I haven't hit on this as much, but this is where embodiment happens, is this phase. And this is another big reason why they took it out, because you can learn and you can experience and you can even go through deaths and develop new paradigms if you want to. You can do that whole baby out with the bathwater, like, I'm just going to get back to life as soon as possible. You can stay in that intellectual space. Feels very comfortable to a lot of us, right? Like, again, very conditioned that that masculine space is like where we want to be. You can be ever learning and never come to a knowledge of the truth. You can have a ton of knowledge and never get wisdom. And it's because you skip this phase. This is the phase where spirit and body, masculine and feminine, are meant to be woven together. This is where you are meant to be experiencing a a correction of your inner polarity of these disparate pieces of yourself. Again, it's the weaving, right? And when we skip it, we never like the transformation never actually lands. We never are actually progressing, even if we feel like we're learning all the time and we're and you know we've gotten different ideas that we like, unless you can bring that into congruence where what you say you know is actually reflected in your body and how you live your life. You're not actually transforming. And that's huge. And that's hard. That is a big thing because it makes us face our dissonance, right? Like it makes us look at the places where I'm like, I have learned this new thing and I'm not acting like it because I'm afraid. Like I have this fear of judgment or how people are going to perceive me, or maybe it means I need to step away from religion and what are my parents going to think and what are there's so much that can come up in this phase. And so be grateful for this time to figure it out. And again, like it takes more discernment. This is a time of discerning too, of like, okay, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So what is baby and what is bathwater in this scenario? And doing that sifting in ourselves and totally claiming in whatever ways we feel impressed to inwardly and outwardly the ways that we are growing. That's a big deal. And that is again the preparation for the next phase where everything comes alive again.
Yeah, I love that. That's very important, that physical piece. And I think people, that's the big skip, right? Like the big skip is no, I can't be in this physical place. I can't feel my body. I don't want to feel my body, which is really interesting because there are so many studies that show if you feel pain, your pain will go away faster. So, like, every time
Mhm.
we give people payment, and obviously there are times in our lives where we are very grateful for pain medication, and it's really necessary for us to be able to continue. Again, what do? We medicate ourselves so we can get back to living. We medicate ourselves so
Yep.
we can do the things, and I'm not saying
Right.
that's bad, but it is a good metaphor for just how much that we do not want to feel that pain, so we will extend the pain for as long as humanly possible by deadening it so that we don't feel it. It's the same thing. We do this with fevers all the time. Oh my gosh, lower the fever, lower the fever. We're really scared. When in most cases, actually, if you let a fever run its course and even if it gets quite high, it actually helps your brain develop more abilities, cognitive abilities, and you will have a fever for a shorter time period rather than trying to put it down, put it down. And it's hard. And I think this is a good example of that. Being in gestation sometimes feels like having a fever. It sucks. Everything's getting burned off and you don't know where to go and you don't know what to do. And it's very difficult and you don't want to be in your body, but you need to be and feel in your body. It's the same thing with your emotions. Why do emotions get trapped in people's bodies? We literally can see this physically happen to people. Why does that happen? Because we will not feel them. We will not be in our body. So the gestation stage is so important for that. And I think both of you and I have talked about that's why for both of us, it's been so important to be gestating right now because we both want to live it. Like you said, I want to live it. And I feel like for me, I haven't been living it as much as I want to live it. And so I am trying really hard to get back into my body and connect to my body, and which I have been preaching about for literally years about like
Mhm.
needing to be in our body, and health is where my journey started. My whole journey started with health. So we need to look at that, and especially feminine bodies, which have been hidden for so long. In many ways, we never studied feminine bodies for literally until the early 2000s in studies, so we know nothing about them. Like how long that doctors were saying things about the feminine anatomy that was wrong is all because of
Mhm.
this. It's all attached and part of this. So, being in your body is very important. If you're going through this stage, I recommend exercise can be a great way to start gently being in your body. If you're like, I don't know if I can do the emotion part, start with exercise because it will force you to be in your body. Any other tips? Megan?
No, I just love that, and I just wanna reiterate that. This is the phase that we, I think, are most tempted to dissociate from our body, and it's the phase when we need to go deepest into our body. I was just thinking while you were talking how these 4 phases could also map to mind, heart, body, spirit, and this is the body phase. Like, this is the phase where you need to be taking care of your health, you need to be getting more connected to this matter, and this is so hard. Like, we have received so much crap, honestly, about the physical body. We associate it again with the darkness, right? And so the evil, like our flesh is the evil part. Our flesh is the natural man. Our flesh is the part of us that lusts, that is bad. And we just need our spirit to submit our flesh. And if we can force our flesh into submission, that's when we'll be a good person and that's when we'll have unity. And it's just crap. Like that's a hierarchy, that's a patriarchal idea. Like it's wrong, right? Our flesh, our body is just as divine as our spirit. It just shows up differently. It just has a different function right now. It carries us like our flesh is a mother to us. It's literally carrying all of our baggage all life long, and it's trying to communicate with us. It has certain programs, right, that we need to see and that might require some healing because it's programmed when we're very young based on our traumas. But when we make space for it and actually listen to our body, oh my gosh, what an amazing teacher. It's there to show us all these things that live in us that aren't serving us anymore. And it is so quick to help us heal. The whole idea that the body keeps the score, it's carrying all of the pain that you've ever had for you so that you don't have to face it until you're ready. And when you are ready, it is there to facilitate your healing so fast. So I'm really interested. I'm excited to learn more. I'm going to be doing some more certifications and things on somatic therapy and learning to work with the body and work with movement. It's so gentle, right? Like the way that the body can just release so much for us just when we make space for it, just when we invite gentle movement in. Me too. Like I've been focusing more on nutrition and on exercise and health, like those basics. We feel like that's not really related to spirituality. I had someone who on a podcast that I did recently was like, "It doesn't matter what shape your body is in for you to have a spiritual experience." And I'm like, "Okay, like, sure, but I'm not talking about having a spiritual experience. I'm talking about being truly human. Like, I'm talking about being embodied as my most authentic true self. And your body is absolutely crucial to that process. So, yes, I think that this is the time to be cultivating so much awareness and compassion and love and care for our body and like really leaning into the fact that our body is caring for us. What if we stewarded and cared for our body? Like, what would it be like if we loved our body? Like, that's so as women, especially, we're just, we receive so much about how to hate our body. What if we change the narrative? Like, what if we learn to love our body instead? And I think that this phase is the prime opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and I do wanna point out there when we're talking about women's bodies because this is something I do and I've done as well, and getting into your body is, like, sometimes we wear our body not being in shape as a badge of honor because we're like, "Oh,
Mm,
my body's not perfect and I have all these hard things," and in many ways, for a lot of women, part of the reason we're out of shape or whatever is because of lies that we've told ourselves about what it means, what being in shape is about, which is like we've told ourselves, oh, it's about the male gaze. It's about men and how you look for
mm,
men, or it's about, being the hottest chick there is. And so some of us disconnect from our bodies in different ways. And I'm not saying you shouldn't like do what you want with your hair or whatever, or your whole
mhm,
body, but sometimes we're kind of like, yeah, I'm sticking it to the man because I'm mean to my body. And it's like, you're actually not, though. Like, your body has nothing to
mm.
do with this. That is not quote unquote sticking it to the man or doing all those kinds of things.
Yeah,
Like, you need to have that good relationship with your body, and it's very difficult to get there. We all know that, but it is possible, and sometimes I think we don't let ourselves get there because we want to be relatable, or like we just want something to have to complain about.
yeah,
Or to have and as
yeah,
sad as that sounds, like, we want to be able to say, like, "Listen, I'm not perfect. I have all this stuff I need to do," because it's an
right,
excuse for not connecting to our body.
right.
And then the last thing I just wanted to say about this is just some other ideas besides, gentle movement. Of course, you can find someone who does somatic practices with you. Kaylee is amazing with that. But I was gonna say also breath work, holotropic breath work
Mhm.
especially is really
Love it.
beautiful.
Favorite.
Yes, and then
Mhm,
any kind of sensual experiences, that means, like, anything that has to do with touch, anything like, exactly what Megan was talking about at the beginning of this podcast, she was in the water, she was in the bathtub, like, letting yourself feel physically, physical sensation, the wind. That's something that I have loved recently as we've been living at the lake, is I sit and I just feel the wind on the lake. I just feel it and feel it with my body. So those are some things you can do, and then slowly our friend Ali Duzat has lots of sessions and things that you can do to feel your emotions physically in your body, but you can build up with that. But it can be as simple as rubbing your hands together, or rubbing something across your skin or getting a massage. Those are all really lovely, but just reconnecting to your body.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is that self-care, right? Like, and particularly emphasizing how we care for our body. Like, I think that that's one of the best things that we can engage in this time because again, our spirit is held. It's all taken care of. It's just a process of receiving, and taking care of our body is like making the vessel ready, like it's contributing in that way. Okay, well that kind of brings us to the last phase, and I think that this one, we don't have to spend a ton of time on, but the idea is you're going to be born. Like you're going to be born again. You're going to be entering a new phase of life. Oftentimes kind of like death, you might have an experience that you're like, that was when I had my breakthrough. That was when this thing came through for me. That was when I finally manifested the thing I'd been working on for forever, right? Like you can kind of point to it of like that's when things felt alive again. I think what's important to know in this phase is and important to keep in mind too is that like you're not born as an adult, you're born as a baby. And I think sometimes we go into this phase and we think like, okay, great, I'm all better again, and we kind of lose again that curiosity and that receptiveness and the care that a newborn still needs. So you might have something be born and you're like, great, I've got this new business or I have this new opportunity that's coming through for me. Give yourself some grace. Like there's going to be a learning curve to things that you're experiencing here. I think that this is another time that, I mean, don't rush it is probably a great rule for all the different phases that I think there are. But especially here, it's like, expect that whatever new life is coming through for you, like you're gonna have to learn how to crawl and then you'll learn how to walk and then you'll learn how to run. Sometimes I think we put, again, too much pressure to get back to that life phase where like we're an adult and it's flowing and everything's on fire and da da da, all of that, trying to get to that too fast. And that can kind of mess things up. Like honestly, if you miss some of these building blocks that are happening right here that can set you up down the road. This is springtime, right? So there's the beauty of the flowers are blossoming, but you also have allergies and you're going to have rainstorms once in a while. Like, I think that this is a little bit more of an unpredictable time. Like, even though things are coming back online and you're feeling that, like, expect that you're going to have cloudy days and that that's okay. Like, that doesn't mean that you're dead again. That doesn't mean that you're in a death phase again, just because you have days that you're like, I'm feeling kind of messy, right? Like, this is springtime. That's that's part of the thing, right? Is that like you're preparing for summer, you're not all the way there yet. You're going to have days that are still kind of cloudy. You might even get snow at some points. So just kind of letting this be a little bit of the roller coaster that springtime is. This is also, your follicular phase. I also relate this to the 4th trimester, which again is the forgotten 4th. Like, we never paid attention to the fact that actually 3 months after you have a baby, you shouldn't be like me out and about shopping and like trying to do all the things with my little newborn and I'm 3 days postpartum, right? Like, this is also a time to take it slow and to be present and to just enjoy the new life that is transpiring around you.
I kind of think about this as Aries energy a little bit. Like sometimes like it's
Yes.
just like, whoa, break out, go full throttle. But also if you think about like a duck that has to break out of its shell or a chicken that has to break out of its shell, it's a difficult process. And also like butterflies, when even when they come out of the chrysalis, their wings are not ready yet. They have to continue to be pumped full of, that fluid and then become full before they can go and fly. And so just know, like Megan said, there will be resistance. There's still going to be some messy resistance and you're going to try things on and then be like, "Ah, that was a bad choice." And like take them off and try this opportunity and it's okay. It's lovely. And from someone who has a 3-month old now, actually just barely turned 4 months, it is messy. It is you're slowly getting it. I mean, and I'm talking about even the way I feel. He's like, "Okay, I'm feeling like my energy is finally kinda coming up. I'm kinda coming up for a breath now, but every once in a while, I'm like, no, I just wanna hang out with my baby. We just need to, like,
Mhm.
slow down and hang out." So, just giving yourself time and don't jump too fast, but also, I wanted to say in this phase, we love to mentor other people. Like, we start to
Mm.
like, we wanna share our experience in some way. This is the part where we want to start really sharing, "Oh, this is what I've been through. This is what has been happening to me." And sometimes we need to just be cautious about getting too far into that as well. That can be really good for us and support us on our journey back to the life phase, and it's good to share, but just being cautious of, like, we're in a place where we don't know what we don't know. We know enough to be dangerous, but we don't always know what we don't know.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for bringing that up. I think it's all about alignment, right? Like, always checking in and understanding what is aligned for me right now in this season. It might be aligned for you to, share your experiences in just a really organic way. I would also recommend, like, all the way in all of the different phases, like having mentors, having people that can help you and sit with you and be with you, and like, and what that looks like is going to change, right? Like, they're holding your hand and kind of serving as a doula while you're going through deaths, and they're sitting in that with you in gestation. Like, they're reminding you you're held, you're known, you're loved, you're worthy. Like, we're here to help you with the healing. We're here to take care of you. We're here to take care of your body, like all these things. And then in this phase, maybe tampering you down a little bit
Mhm,
and saying, like, "Don't run faster than you have strength."
mhm.
Like, maybe chill out for a little bit. I know that that's so helpful for me because I get uppity and I get bees in my bonnet, and sometimes I just need someone to be like, "Megan, calm down.
Yeah.
Like, you're fine. Like, don't do that crazy thing. Like, wait a little bit," right? So, yeah, I think that that's so helpful just to have, and this speaks to especially the importance of having other women. Like,
Mhm.
I think one of the most miraculous things about this pattern is to witness the fact that, like, women are living this, whether we mean to or not. Like, our bodies are constantly going through this transformative cycle, and it is the process. Like, this is the sacred spiral by which we descend and ascend. You have to descend before you ascend. You have to be willing to go into the depths of yourself and to see the shadows. You have to be willing to face that, and it prepares you to return, right? It prepares you for that new life, for that greater perspective, for that journey upwards again. And so the evolution of the soul for both men and women. But the beauty is that our bodies are already programmed. Like they are already going through this on so many different levels. And so again, the wisdom of the female body is so vital to tap into and to witness in this phase. And then your soul learns to mimic that. Like that is the whole idea of exoteric and esoteric traditions, right? I just want to maybe close with this idea. The way that I coach and mentor and I do retreats and I have programs that I work with women on, and a big part of how I want to approach that again is helping people see the exoteric, which is the outward forms, the things that exist that are observable with our five senses that are meant to be teaching us the inward pattern. And I prefer to see religion that way. I think that we tend to take religion way too literally. But when you tune into this more symbolic view, a lot of things open up in all different religions. Like you can see the truth that exists in all these different places and how it's meant to lead you to the inward journey, right? And so if we look at that pattern, we can also see the feminine side, the female body. We are the exoteric form that is meant to be inspiring and reminding us of the true inner esoteric process. And we do that for men and women. We are playing such a vital role for society. And again, parts of that have been taken away from us and we've lost that wisdom in ways, but we're remembering it. And when we remember it, we have the responsibility to live it and embody it, right? Like to go through these cycles and to become that. And when we're doing that, we're not just changing ourselves. That is the transformation of everything, of our relationships, our families, our communities, the world. Like this is how new earth gets created is by intentionally recognizing the pattern that women's bodies are already living and then choosing into that pattern in our inner life as well.
That is very beautiful. Thank you for that last thought, Megan. I think that's wonderful. And I love learning about this pattern. I love chatting with you about this. We could talk about it all day.
Yes.
And Megan,
And maybe we
maybe
will.
we will. Maybe we will. And if you're listening to this and you've missed Megan's retreat, she has a retreat. I think all your spots are filled, aren't they?
Our retreat is full. Yes. I am going to be so like kind of our next things is I am going to be doing a women's program. It's a 12-week program starting in the fall. So you can find information on that on my website. It's, every week we come together as a group of women and we're talking about all these patterns. Like we're going to be looking at them and understanding how do we live them. And then we also do like I do invitations throughout the week to help with that embodiment piece, right? That we're constantly not just intellectually thinking about it, but actually putting it into practice with what we're doing with our bodies. So that's called Return to the Garden. Lots of people who come from a religious background, but you don't have to. Like all the principles are the same, right? That's the beauty of these truths is that it applies literally on every level. So if anyone's interested, I would recommend that program for help understanding the feminine and then going through this particular cycle of embodiment.
Yes. And hopefully, Megan will have more retreats soon and we will keep you updated about them. We love participating in them because Megan is amazing and what she creates is wonderful. So, thank you. And you can check her podcast out at Hidden Wisdom. It's on all the podcast things. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can find her. And you can find all of her links in our show notes. So thank you so much again, Megan, for being with us. And have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next time.